Hello everybody, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be talking about the book called Rimonim, the Garden of the Pomegranate by Moshe Cordovero. Pardes Rimonim stands as one of the most significant systematic works in the history of Jewish mysticism, representing a watershed moment in the development of Kabbalistic thought during the 16th century. Composed by Rabbi Moshe J. Cordovero in 1548, this monumental text served as the first comprehensive exposition of medieval Kabbalah, establishing a methodological framework for understanding the complex mystical traditions that have evolved over the centuries. The author, Moshe Cordovero, the Ramak. Moshe ben Jacob Cordovero lived from 1522 to 1570. Known by the acronym Ramak, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero emerged as one of the most influential figures in Kabbalic history. Born in Safed, the Galilee city that would become the epicenter of 16th century Jewish mysticism, Cordovero's family name indicates Spanish origins, likely from Cordoba, with his ancestors presumably among the Jewish refugees from the 1492 expulsion. The young Cordovero demonstrated extraordinary intellectual prowess early in his career. By age 20, he had mastered Talmudic literature under the guidance of Rabbi Joseph Caro, the renowned author of the Shulchan Aruch. With exceptional scholarship earned him the prestigious Samicha rabbinic ordination by Rabbi Yaakov Berav in 1538, alongside much older and more established scholars. In 1542, at 20 years of age, Cordovero described what he described as a heavenly voice urging him to study Kabbalah. He began his mystical education under his brother-in-law Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz, the composer of the beloved Lechododi prayer. This initiation into the mysteries of the Zohar would transform the young scholar into the systematizer of an entire mystical tradition. The genesis and structure of Pardes Rimonim. The title of Pardes Rimonim translates as Orchard of Pomegranates, with the word Pardes carrying the double meaning of both orchard and a Kabbalistic system of four-level scriptural interpretation. The pomegranate has traditionally served as a mystical symbol, representing the hidden secrets contained within an external form, much like the esoteric wisdom concealed within Torah texts. Cordovero indicates that his introduction that the work emerged from his systematic study of the Zohar, the foundational text of the Kabbalah, are attributed to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He explains that he composed Pardes Rimonim not to become lost and confused in its Zohar depths. The Zohar's often enigmatic and seemingly contradictory passages required careful systematization to render them accessible and coherent. The work is structured as an encyclopedic summary organized into 32 sha'arim gates or sections, each subdivided into chapters totaling 270 chapters overall. Some sources indicate that the work comprises 13 gates according to certain manuscript traditions. This systematic approach allowed Cordovero to address all the tenets of the Kabbalah, such as the doctrines of the Sephirot, emanation, the divine names, the import of and significance of the alphabet, etc., theological and philosophical framework, the synthesis of philosophy and mysticism. Pardes Rimonim represents a remarkable synthesis between Kabbalistic mysticism and medieval Jewish philosophy, particularly the rationale of Maimonides. Cordovero's unique contribution lay in his ability to integrate the seemingly contradictory approaches of philosophical rationalism and mystical theosophy into a coherent system. Following Maimonides and other medieval philosophers, Cordovero maintained that God, as the transcendent first cause, remains beyond human comprehension, cannot be described through positive attributes. However, where philosophy stopped at its apophatic theology, Mona provided a crucial bridge to the doctrine of the Sephirot, divine emanations. The doctrine of Sephirot and emanation, central to Cordovero's system, is his sophisticated understanding of the Sephirot as divine emanation that mediate between the unknowable Enso of the infinite God and the created world. Unlike some earlier Kabbalistic approaches that risk compromising divine unity, Cordovero carefully maintained that the Sephirot represent aspects of divine activity rather than separate entities. In Gate 4, Chapter 7 of Pardes Rimonim, Cordovero explains the relationship between the transcendent God and his emanated light, the distinction between the transcendent God who is unmoved and the light which is emanated from his being and is diffused through the Sephirot. Such emanation is not necessary, rather it occurs through God's will. Its formulation preserves both the divine transcendence and immanence, allowing for mystical experience while maintaining philosophical rigor. As one passage from his work explains, the Holy Blessed, he shines in the tenth third of the world of emanation, in the tenth third of the world of creation, and in the 10 heavenly spheres. He is the existence of all beings. The four worlds. Cordovera's systematic approach extended to its articulation on the four spiritual worlds through which divine emanation flows: Atzilut, emanation; Beriah, creation; Yitzhak, formation; and Siyah, action. Each world represents a different level of divine manifestation, from the purely spiritual realm of Atzilut to the physical world of Yitzhak. Mythology and hermeneutical approach. Systematic organization. One of Cordovera's greatest achievements was his methodological organization of centuries of disparate mythic teaching. Paradis Rimonim includes an entire chapter, Gate 23, devoted to an alphabetical arrangement of Kabbalistic terms and symbols, facilitating easy consultation and study. This encyclopedic approach made the work invaluable for both advanced practitioners and students seeking to understand the common language symbolic in the language of Kabbalah. Harmonization of sources. Cordovera's hermeneutic method involved the careful harmonization of seemingly contradictory teachings from various Kabbalistic sources. He drew extensively from the Zohar, Tikkuni Zohar, and Rama Hema, treating them as works by a single author and therefore requiring internal consistency. This approach, while historically problematic, allowed him to create a unified theological system from diverse mystical traditions. Integration of earlier schools. The Paradisic successfully integrated elements from different Kabbalistic schools, including theoretical traditions of Provence and Spain, and the ecstatic Kabbalah of Abraham Abulafia, and the systematic approach of earlier figures like Meir Gabbai. By this synthetic approach established Cordovera as the great systematizer of pre-Luranic Kabbalah. The work's influence and reception. Contemporary impact. Paradis Rimonim immediately established itself as the authoritative exposition of the Kabbalistic doctrine. The work became one of the most widely read and influential Kabbalistic works and was considered a basis of the Kabbalistic outlook until the works of Isaac Luria ultimately overshadowed it. The text's influence extended beyond Jewish circles. Christian Kabbalists of the Renaissance period translated portions into Latin, including works by Giovanni Bartolocci, Athanasius Kircher, and Christian Norvan Rosenroth. These translations helped disseminate Kabbalistic ideas throughout European intellectual circles. Relationship to Lurianic Kabbalah. The arrival of Isaac Luria, the Arian Sephard, in 1570, shortly before Cordovera's death, marked a turning point in Kabbalistic history. Luria's more methodological and super-rational system ultimately displaced Cordovera's rationally influenced approach. However, rather than completely rejecting Cordoveran Kabbalah, the Lurianic followers integrated into their broader framework, viewing Cordovera's system as described in the pre-rectification world, while Lurianism addressed the world of Tikkun, rectification, manuscript tradition, and publication history. The complex manuscript tradition of Paradis Rimonim reflects its widespread circulation and influence. The work was first published in Krakow in 1591. Through this edition, it represents the combination of extensive manuscript copying and circulation. Recent scholarship by Eugene D. Matanki has identified key figures in the manuscript tradition, including Abraham Galant as the primary copyist, and Ezra Defano as the producer of the manuscript that served as the basis for the first printed edition. The printing history itself tells a dramatic story. The Krakow edition began in the workshop of Isaac ben Aaron Potitz, but was completed in Naui Dor due to a plague outbreak that forced the printer to flee with his equipment. This makes Rimonim the only Hebrew work ever printed in Naui Dor. Companion work by Cordovera, Or Yaka, alongside Paradis Rimonim. Cordovera composed Or Yaka, the Precious Light, a massive 22-volume commentary on the Zohar. This work provides detailed explanation of the Zohar, how passages Tikkuni Zohar, Zohar Chadash, and other Kabbalistic classics. The Or Yaka represents perhaps the most systematic and comprehensive commentary on the Zohar ever composed, demonstrating Cordovera's mastery of the entire corpus of Zoharic literature. Other significant works. Cordovera's prolific output included several other important texts: Or Ne'erav, an introduction to Kabbalah and justification of its study; Toma Devora, the palm tree of Deborah, an ethical work integrating Kabbalistic concepts with moral teachings; and Lima Rabbatai, a systematic treatment of the Or Ensof and Sephirot, Shiokoma, a treatise on the structure of the spiritual world. Theological innovations and contributions. Cordovera's theological system demonstrates striking similarities to later pantheistic philosophy, particularly that of Spinoza. He is the existence of all beings, and that all things exist in him under the most pure and most perfect form. Anticipates later philosophical developments. Indeed, some scholars suggest that Spinoza may have been influenced by Cordovera's writings, as this philosopher referred to an old philosopher when questioned about the origins of his theories. Divine names and alphabetic mysticism. Palladio's Rimonim contains an extensive treatment of divine names and the mystical significance of Hebrew letters. Cordovera's approach to alphabetic mysticism represents a sophisticated development of earlier traditions, integrating them into his broader systematic framework. His treatment of the Tetragrammaton and other divine names became particularly influential in later Kabbalistic literature. Cosmological theology. This work presents a comprehensive cosmological system describing the process of divine emanation from the Ein Sof through the very spiritual world to physical creation. Cordovera's cosmology successfully balances the need for divine transcendence with the reality for divine eminence, providing a framework that satisfies both philosophical and mystical requirements. I'm going to end there. That's a part 1, and there will be another video on part 2. All the best. Bye.